We are trained to be impressed by the wrong things: eloquence, confidence, a polished appearance. From our earliest days, we are taught to admire the beautiful container and assume the purity of its contents. A charming smile, a well-crafted sentence, the confident posture of success. These are the currencies of our social world. We have become connoisseurs of the exterior, expert evaluators of the packaging. And so we mistake the beautiful jug for pure water, the ornate bottle for fine wine. The great masters of Sufism, the spiritual psychologists of their age, taught that this is the most common and dangerous error in human judgment. It is a form of blindness that leaves us vulnerable to the deepest kinds of disappointment and betrayal. They knew a profound secret of the human heart. A person's true character is not revealed when they speak of themselves, for that is the realm of performance, of the curated self. It is not even revealed in how they treat their superiors, for that is often a strategy of advancement. No, the truest, most unfiltered glimpse into a person's soul is offered in a far more subtle moment, when they are asked to speak of another, especially a friend or a rival, in their absence. In that unguarded space, the inner contents of the heart, be it loyalty or envy, compassion or resentment, cannot help but spill forth. A profound story from Rumi's masterwork, the Masnavi, provides a timeless masterclass in this sacred art of discernment. It is a guide on how to see past the beautiful jug and, with courage and wisdom, taste the water within. This is an invitation to learn that art. It is a journey into the courtroom of a wise king who teaches us not what to look for, but how to look. In an age saturated with personal branding and digital masks, where everyone is the hero of their own story, this ancient wisdom is not merely useful, it is essential for our spiritual survival. It offers us a tool, a litmus test for the soul, to help us navigate the complex world of human character and to begin the even more important work of examining the contents of our own hearts. Let us enter the world of the parable. A wise king, a ruler whose power was matched only by his insight into human nature, purchased 2 slaves from the market. They were an investment, not merely in labor, but in potential. For this king understood that within the humblest vessel could lie the greatest treasure. He summoned the first of the 2 men to his private chambers. The man was handsome, his speech was refined, and his mind was quick. As they spoke, the king was dazzled. The man's words were like polished stones, each one perfectly chosen and placed. He spoke of philosophy, of poetry, of the world, and with every sentence he seemed to draw pearls from an ocean of wisdom. Here was a man, the king thought, of immense potential. His intellect was a sharp, shining instrument. There is a Sufi saying, "A man is hidden behind his tongue." The tongue is the curtain to the doorway of the soul. When the wind of conversation blows that curtain aside, we cannot help but see what lies within. But even this can be deceptive, for some have learned to hang a beautiful tapestry in the doorway, a carefully woven image that masks the disarray inside. The king, being a man of deep perception, was impressed by the tapestry, but he had not yet seen the room. Pleased with the man's intelligence and grace, he honored him. "You are a man of rare quality," he said. "Go now to the royal bathhouse, be refreshed and adorned in fine clothes worthy of your mind." As the first man departed, the king summoned the second. The contrast could not have been more stark. The second man entered the chamber with his head bowed. His clothes were ragged, his posture was weary, and as he drew near, the king noticed the foul odor of his breath and the dark stains on his teeth. His presence was not one of polish, but of hardship. The king, sensitive to the foul smell, gestured for him to keep his distance. But the king's purpose was not to humiliate the man for his unfortunate state. His aim was to see beyond the grime, beyond the stained and broken vessel, to the nature of the water it contained. He was about to conduct an experiment, not in chemistry, but in alchemy, the alchemy of the human soul. He began with a gentle deception, a strategic falsehood designed to probe the man's character. "You seem to be a man of good sense," the king began, his voice laced with feigned sympathy, "which is why I am so perplexed. Your friend, the one who was just here, he spoke of you at length, and I must say he painted a very dark picture. He told me you are a man of bad character, a thief, untrustworthy, and that you keep the company of wicked people." The king watched the man's face, looking for the flicker of anger, the sting of betrayal, the defensive posture of a wounded ego. But he saw none of it. The man remained still for a moment, his gaze directed inward. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and measured. "My lord," he said, "my friend is a man who always speaks the truth. There is no one more honest or righteous than he. If he has said these things of me, then they must be true. The fault must be in me. Perhaps there are stains on my character that he can see, but which I, in my own blindness, cannot. If a friend as good as he has said this, then I must thank him for the lesson and look deeper into my own soul." The king was taken aback by this response. It was a reaction of such profound humility and unshakable loyalty that it was almost unbelievable. He decided to press further, to see if he could crack this veneer of nobility. "Very well," the king said, "I understand your own faults. But now, tell me of his. For me to know what work he is suited for, I must understand his flaws as well as his strengths. Speak honestly." The man looked up, and for the first time a gentle light shone in his eyes. "My king," he said, "since you have commanded it, I must speak of his flaws. His only flaw is his overwhelming virtue. His only fault is his loyalty, his kindness, and his profound humanity. His only defect is his generosity, his intelligence, and the sincerity of his friendship. He is a man who would give his own life for a friend. He helps those in need without a second thought. He is not arrogant. He sees his own faults far more clearly than he sees the faults of others. He makes friends with everyone, for his heart is open to all." The king raised a hand. "Be careful, my son. Do not praise him so lavishly. I may put him to the test, and if he fails, it is you who will be shamed for your words." The man's conviction did not waver. "I swear by the God who made me," he said, his voice now ringing with a quiet power, "I have not exaggerated. My friend is 100 times more beautiful in his soul than my clumsy words can describe." The king fell silent, marveling at the scene. He had offered this man the perfect opportunity to engage in gossip, to exact revenge for a perceived betrayal, to elevate himself by diminishing another, and the man had refused at every turn. He had absorbed the poison of the king's lie and transmuted it into a testament of love. The king spoke to him for a while longer, sharing wisdom about the hidden nature of things, about how the inner reality of a person is a secret kept from the world, and how only those with a pure heart can begin to perceive it. Then he dismissed the loyal friend, his mind now holding a clear picture of the man's soul.
The stage was now set for the final act. The first man returned from the bathhouse. He was transformed. His skin was clean, he was dressed in fine silks, and he carried himself with an air of renewed confidence. He was the perfect image of the beautiful, polished jug. "Welcome," the king said, his voice carrying a new, more serious tone. "You are truly a man of elegance and intellect, and yet I am troubled. I find it hard to believe that you possess the terrible flaws your friend described. If only you were free of those dark traits, you would be a perfect man." The change in the eloquent man was instantaneous and terrifying. His charming smile vanished, replaced by a mask of rage. His face turned crimson, a fire of indignation lit his eyes. "That godless wretch!" he spat, his voice once so smooth and melodic, now harsh and guttural. "What lies did that son of a dog invent about me? Tell me, my king, so that I may answer his slander." The king remained calm, his gaze steady. "He said that you are a man of two faces, that you appear to be a remedy, but in reality you are a disease." The words struck the eloquent man like a physical blow. He began to tremble with fury, his fists clenched at his sides. He lost all composure, all semblance of the refined intellectual he had presented. The beautiful tapestry in the doorway of his soul was ripped away, and what lay behind it was now visible to all. "That vile creature," he hissed, his mouth foaming slightly at the corners, "the one who pretended to be my friend, he is no better than a stray dog in a time of famine. He eats filth and lives in it." He opened his mouth to continue his tirade of insults, to unleash a torrent of poison against the man he had called his friend. But the king had seen enough. He stood up and placed a hand over the man's mouth, silencing him. "Enough," the king said, his voice now cold as iron. "This test has distinguished you from him. The foul odor comes not from his mouth, but from your soul. He has a simple physical affliction. You have a spiritual sickness. Stand away from me, for the stench of your spirit is far worse than the smell of his breath." With that, the king made his judgment. He took the humble, loyal, and unpolished man and made him the chief of his personal guard and overseer of his affairs. And he placed the eloquent, beautiful, and envious man under his command. One had proven that his friendship was a fortress of loyalty. The other had shown that his heart was a nest of vipers ready to strike at the slightest provocation. Rumi concludes this story with a simple, devastatingly profound piece of advice that serves as the key to its entire meaning. Don't look at the jug, taste the water. This parable is a masterclass in human psychology, as relevant in our age of social media as it was in the 13th century. The eloquent slave is the master of the personal brand. His exterior is flawless, his words are compelling, his resume is impressive. He is the perfect LinkedIn profile, the curated Instagram feed, the charming politician. We are biologically and culturally wired to be drawn to such figures. This is the halo effect in cognitive psychology, a bias where our overall impression of a person is unduly influenced by a single positive trait, like eloquence or attractiveness. The king, in his wisdom, consciously resists this bias. He knows he must test the contents.
The king's test is a brilliant piece of spiritual engineering. He creates a scenario that applies pressure to the one virtue that the ego finds most difficult to maintain: loyalty in the face of perceived betrayal. He introduces a fiction, slander, to reveal a non-fiction truth about character. The second slave, the one with the rough exterior, demonstrates what true integrity looks like. His response is a perfect embodiment of Stoic philosophy. When told he has been slandered, he does not become defensive or angry. His first move is not to attack the other, but to examine himself. If a good man said this, perhaps he sees a fault in me that I don't. This is the practice of Marcus Aurelius, who constantly reminded himself to turn inward for strength rather than blaming external events. This man's loyalty is not transactional. It is a fundamental state of his being. He is the plain clay jug, perhaps chipped and stained, but filled with the purest, sweetest water. The first slave, the eloquent one, reveals the sickness of the soul that Sufism calls hasad, or corrosive envy. Envy is not simply wanting what someone else has. It is a deeper malignancy.
It is the pain felt at the good fortune of others and the desire to see that good fortune destroyed. The king's test reveals that the man's friendship was merely a mask for a deep-seated rivalry. The moment he believes his friend has risen by putting him down, his true nature erupts with volcanic force. His eloquent words are shown to be a weapon, not a gift, and his charming smile is the baring of teeth. This is the psychological mechanism of projection in its purest form. The darkness, the filth, the two-faced nature that he accuses his friend of, these are all confessions of his own inner state. He is the ornate, gilded jug, polished to a brilliant shine, but filled with bitter poison. The king's final verdict is the central teaching of the story. Your soul has a foul odor, his mouth merely has one. He makes a critical distinction between a superficial flaw and a core corruption. It is better to have a smelly mouth than a smelly soul. A problem with the jug can be cleaned. A problem with the water contaminates everything it touches. In our modern world, we are obsessed with cleaning the jug. We spend fortunes on our appearance, our credentials, our public relations. But we spend precious little time examining the quality of the water inside. So, how do we apply this ancient litmus test in our own lives? We must become quiet observers of how people speak when the subject of their conversation is not in the room. Listen when your colleagues speak of a coworker who just got a promotion. Listen when friends speak of a mutual acquaintance who is experiencing success or hardship. Listen for the subtle notes of envy masked as concern, or the sharp sting of criticism disguised as honesty. Is the speaker's first instinct to celebrate, to defend, to show compassion? Or is it to doubt, to diminish, to find a flaw, to introduce a but into the conversation? In these moments, the soul is speaking its native language. And even more importantly, we must apply this test to ourselves. Let us take a moment now to step into the king's quiet chamber of discernment within ourselves. Let this not be a moment of harsh judgment, but of gentle, honest awareness. Settle into your body and take a deep, cleansing breath. As you exhale, release the need to perform, the need to appear a certain way. Just be here, now, as you are.
Bring to mind a person in your life who is currently experiencing some form of success or happiness, someone whose star is rising. It could be a friend, a family member, a colleague. Hold their image and their success gently in your awareness. Now, be exquisitely honest with yourself. Listen to the very first voice that arises in your heart. Is there a genuine, uncomplicated feeling of joy for them? A sense of shared celebration? If so, acknowledge this beautiful, pure water within you. This is the fragrance of a healthy soul. Or do you notice a different reaction? A subtle tightening in your chest? A quiet voice that whispers, "Why them and not me?" Or, "They don't really deserve it?" Or, "I'm sure it won't last." Do not be ashamed of this voice. Do not push it away. This is the voice of the first slave. It is the voice of the human ego, the nefs. Simply notice its presence. This is the taste of the poison of envy. Acknowledging it is the first step toward healing it. Seeing it is the first step toward choosing a different response. Now, let's try the second part of the king's test. Bring to mind someone you consider a friend. Imagine you are in a conversation, and a third person begins to subtly criticize your friend in their absence. What is your first instinctual response? Do you remain silent, implicitly agreeing?
Do you add a small criticism of your own to fit in? Or does a protective instinct arise in you? Do you feel the urge to defend their honor, to offer a different perspective, to speak of their good qualities? This simple, imagined scenario is a powerful mirror for the soul. It shows you the quality of your loyalty. It shows you the quality of your water. The path of wisdom that Rumi lays before us is a path of purification. It is about dedicating our lives to cleansing the water within our own jug. This is done through self-awareness, through catching the envious thought and replacing it with a prayer for that person's well-being. It is done by practicing loyalty, by refusing to participate in the cheap currency of gossip and slander. It is done by focusing more on our own inner state than on the outward appearances of others. The world will always have its eloquent charmers and its rough-looking saints. It will always have beautiful jugs filled with poison and plain jugs filled with life-giving water. The journey of a wise soul is to develop the firaset, the penetrating insight, to tell the difference. This sight is not developed through cynicism, but through purity. The clearer the water in your own jug, the more clearly you will see the contents of others. Ultimately, the story is a profound comfort. It reassures us that truth has a way of revealing itself. The king, a symbol for divine wisdom or simply the unflinching reality of life, will always conduct his test. Our true nature cannot remain hidden forever. Every interaction, every conversation, every choice is a small revelation of our soul's true fragrance. Our task is not to perfect our mask, but to beautify our spirit, so that when the test inevitably comes, what spills forth is only the pure water of a loyal, humble, and loving heart.